Hello, everyone. Welcome to Baby Talk Tuesday. Um, so, for those of you that are new here, either on my Facebook page or in this Facebook group, welcome. My name is Cara Wright, and every Tuesday, and pretty much all the days of my life, I speak on this topic all about pregnancy, birth, and the way in which we communicate with beings that are coming to be our children that's far beyond what you've ever considered as possible. Um, so, just if you, again, don't know my background, for years, I think it was probably 15 years, I was a birth doula and attended births, all different types of births. I also am an Access Consciousness certified facilitator. And that work came to me a little bit later in the process. I was a doula for many, many, many years before. And I was a doula after learning the tools of Access Consciousness. And a lot of what I speak to in Baby Talk is what I started to become aware of using the tools of Access Consciousness even more than I was aware of before around pregnancy, birth, communicating with your baby, what that actually looks like, what is actually possible, what is actually going on. Because we think we have a good idea of what's actually occurring, but often what we think is going on is like the very tip of a very large, uh, basic iceberg. And so that is actually what I started to find out for myself when I first started using the tools of Access Consciousness and really started to one of the basic things we do in Access Consciousness is we start to really get rid of a lot of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that we have adopted as real and true. And once those start to kind of come off as, wait a second, is that actually my point of view? Is that something I believe because someone told me to, because I read it in a book, because I learned it in a class? Um, and so like over time we create this whole experiential idea or view of the world that may or may not have anything to do with what's actually occurring. So and that goes for everything in life. And this particular subject topic, whatever you want to call it, is but really been a passion for me. And so when I started really changing the way in which actually get it, like letting go of the things that I had decided I had to believe or had to think a particular way, or things had to be done a particular way, or um, once I started to let a lot of those things go, what showed up was what I actually was aware of what was going on, like what I actually knew to be true. And most of the time, those things like were there, those little hints of like what was going on below the surface that is actually the truth of what's occurring, um, overlaid by everything that you're told here is possible that maybe like not even close to what's actually possible. And no more does that occur. I think that birth, pregnancy, becoming pregnant, infertility, um, the whole gamut, like everything that you can experience as a woman and as even a man through your partner, through the experience of having children. Um, there's a lot there. And so this is a very um, broad topic. And so every Tuesday, I go into different aspects of that topic. Um, if you have questions, if you have things that you would like me to go into, please feel free to drop me a personal message, or you can just comment on the bottom of any of the videos that I do. And let me know, like, what are you actually interested in knowing? You know, if you're someone who's pregnant, if you're someone who is choosing to become pregnant in the near future, if you're someone who just had a baby, like it's the whole complete um, space around conception, having babies, and even losing babies, being, having fertility issues. Those things are all valid and real. Because the thing that I really started to know once I knew what I knew because of the access tools is that what we've decided that babies are and the consciousness that babies have is very, very different than um, what's actually going on. And from my perspective and from what I've learned um, and known is that beings that are coming here to be born as babies are not these clean slates. They're not this like they don't have a point of view. They're not conscious and aware. And the thing that I wanted to talk about today was that when I started to really be curious about like, okay, so if babies aren't this clean slate, if they have points of view, perspectives, awarenesses, um, needs, requirements, even when you're conceiving, even when you're pregnant, even during the birth process, during postpartum period, before they actually have the ability to communicate in the way that we think things communicate here, that they actually do deliver an energy and you can be aware of your baby and what your baby requires um, as a form of communication in so many ways. And one of the things that I found really interesting for myself is that I realized how aware I had been of beings that were coming to be born. So all of these women, because I also taught prenatal yoga and postnatal yoga for a really long time, like I don't know, like I think 20 years. Um, and what started to occur to me is like, wow, like there were a lot of women that found me because they desired to be there. And then there were these amazing women that would show up, and the whole time they're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I actually hate this. I don't like doing yoga. Like there were some really like some moms that would come and they would be like, I don't like to move my body like this. I'm uncomfortable. Like I don't want to be here. They would be tired and have a lot of things going on with their bodies. And what I realized after the fact was like, oh, like a lot of times as a mom, whether you're aware of this or not, when you're pregnant with your being and your baby, you do things because they request it. You just don't realize they're the ones that are requesting it. So what I realized was like a lot of these women, some of these women actually show up because that's what the being required. And that is what the being that's coming to be your baby wanted for you, for it, for the both of you. And for whatever reason, and bodies are very aware and bodies are very it's actually a really easy way to communicate with us. We think our bodies are having aches, pains, sensations, feelings, all the things. Oftentimes we've associated them with a million different particular things. What if what some of the things that you experience in your body is actually an awareness of a communication or an energy, and your body is giving you that information through the sensorial experience? Like, what if our bodies are way more similar to a cat's whiskers than we've ever considered possible? That literally our bodies are a way that we engage with our environment. And whether you're aware of it or not, when you are pregnant, you are actually engaging with the being that is coming to be born as your child. And just like there's a million different people on the planet, there's a million different beings, and they all have different perspectives, different energies, different awarenesses. Some of them are quite demanding, some of them are really easygoing, some of them are um, as anticipatory of the event of birth as you are. Some of them are as freaked out as maybe you are. Some of them are super confident. Some of them actually desire to have like meat in your system, for example. And maybe you've been a vegetarian for the last 15 years and you're freaking out because everything about this pregnancy is making you crave meat, but you've been a vegetarian. And, when I used to do yoga, I also addressed a lot of the physiologic things, the hormone changes and what your body actually requires when it's actually building another body inside of it, which I think it's really funny. Do people really actually, how often do people actually really acknowledge what pregnancy is? It's so funny because again, we just are willing to look at the little tiny surface of the huge iceberg underneath the surface. But when you are pregnant, your body is actually building another body. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing that bodies can actually do that? And if you one of the things that we talk about in access consciousness a lot is that everything has consciousness and everything has awareness. And there isn't even right or wrong to any of that, but that it just is what it is. And so if you think about a pregnancy, you have your being, your consciousness, you have your body's consciousness because it is slightly different than yours. It has its own perspective and point of view. I mean, how often have you mentally wanted to eat something and then you ate it and your body gave you very different information about the thing you ate than you thought? Like you thought it was going to be great. Body gave you slightly different response. Like, and how often does that occur? Then you add to that your baby's being, like its consciousness. And you add to that this new forming consciousness of this body that is growing and that you're contributing to building inside your body. So, like, how does that all happen? And, like, what is that that is beyond what we've ever considered it is? And, like I used to always say, and because it happened more often than not where you would have women who had a particular, way of being, like whether they're vegetarian or some women would have like, like they can't, usually they're fine eating peanuts, but like when they're pregnant with this particular being, they can't eat peanuts. Or usually like where they would have something physiologically change in their body. And what I used to talk about was that it was more of like uh, because again, like I was trained to look a little deeper than the average person, but I really wasn't looking at the whole iceberg. Like I don't even think now I'm looking at the whole iceberg. It's like similar to the energy of the oceans where it's like we've explored a very small percent of the oceans, but we all have the point of view, we know what's going on in there. Like, do we really know what's going on? Is that actually true? Same thing about pregnancy, same thing about birth. Like we think we know everything that's going on, but is that actually really true? And if you're willing to just in a tiny, tiny way go, okay, what could be going on here that's beyond what I have ever considered possible? Like, what information could my body be giving me about what this being requires or about what the body that's being built requires that I'm not acknowledging? And what does my body know about all of this that is beyond learned thinking, that's beyond what your grandmother told you or your mom told you or your friends told you is possible? And just being willing to, even in the slightest way, crack that this is the way things are mentality and start to look more from a place of like, wow, what is actually going on here that I've never considered possible? What am I actually aware of as a woman, as a mom, as someone who is engaging and participating in the growth, development, and build of a new being and body that's coming to this world. And really, when you start to look at it like that, you like there's a certain sense of reverence that I think we've lost a lot for the whole process of becoming pregnant, being pregnant, delivering your baby, being a parent. Like there are things that I think based on like just societal values, societal norms, we've kind of watered down what is actually a very, very magical endeavor, really. For those of you that have been pregnant um, and have had babies, you know that it can be an endeavor. So I would really encourage you to start to ask those questions around like what's actually going on. And when you have different things show up in your body, instead of assuming like before I was really willing to look underneath the surface and be aware of what I was aware of, like I would just go to what was obvious, like, you're growing a new being, you have increased blood flow in your body, you just might need more iron, hence the craving for meat when you've never actually ate meat. Um, and that could very well be what's going on. And what else is that? Maybe this being isn't going to be a vegetarian. Maybe they really like to have that, the energy of having a stake in their world. Because the thing too that I really, and it was something I was always aware of prior to Access. And because even as a doula, like I was so aware of the energy of things. And like as a yogi, I was very interested in like chakras and nadis and the energy systems. And I was also really aware of systems, right? So it's like pregnancy is like one big system, right? How you become pregnant, staying pregnant, having a nurturing pregnancy that develops into having a birth that is nurturing, nourishing, and a baby that is healthy and all the things. Like those are all systems that have to take place. And underneath all of those things is energy. So I mean, I think it was Einstein that said like everything is energy. So sometimes when, we get really like physically, like because of the way that we experience our bodies and we experience them as a very real physical thing, like when you're having an ache or pain, or your baby's got its foot stuck up in your diaphragm, or it's kicking your liver all the time, like those are very sensorially, like it's like it makes you believe your body is very physical, and that we forget that it is actually an energetic being. Your body is, your baby's body is, and you're collaborating and experiencing this whole thing together. Like there's lots of studies that show that the babies and the moms, like the whole time you're pregnant, there's just a constant combining, collaboration, circulation, like everything. There is no separation between you and the being. There is no separation between your body and your baby's body. Everything is um, basically working together in a system. And sometimes when you have physical things show up during pregnancy, it is an indication of a desire, a need, a want for either the baby as a being or for the body that's growing within you. And how do you know what that is? How do you actually, like, it's like one of the things we talk a lot about in Access is being willing to be in the question at all times. And always questioning what's showing up as opposed to going to a conclusion of like where it matches something, right? So, like, for example, a lot of women have heartburn during pregnancy. It's a very common thing, especially in the third trimester. So, heartburn shows up for you, and you just automatically go to the conclusion of, well, every woman gets heartburn during pregnancy. Well, okay, cool. That is true. And what else could this be? If this was a way for your baby to communicate with you, what could the communication be? And that's just really one example. It's like it's taking the time to be so present with yourself and with your body, which I know that is sometimes asking a lot, because you are really uncomfortable when you're pregnant a lot of times. Your body goes through massive change. And again, we've normalized that as if like, well, it's no big deal. Like it's no big deal that your body, shifts and changes as much as it does. And yet we aren't willing to actually be present and acknowledge it because it is that uncomfortable. It is changing so often. And so one of the things you can start to do is like have a willingness to be present with your body as it shifts and changes, from the perspective of like, what is this communicating to me? And as I said, it could just be the physical change that's required for you, your body, your baby's body, and your baby being to go through. But it also could be a way in which you're getting information, something that you need to add to your diet, something that you need to eliminate from your diet, a particular way to move, a particular way to not move. Like, sometimes I would have women come into class and they'd be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I keep waking up on my back. And because you're just freaked out and told, as if you've been pregnant, that you should never lay on your back. You're never lay on your back. And it's like, okay, cool. And if you wake up on your back and you're fine, does that actually apply to you and your body? And one of the tools, and if you haven't looked at some of my other videos, I've talked about this tool a lot. It's one of the basic tools of Access Consciousness. And that tool is, what is true for you will always make you feel lighter, will always like expand your world. And what's alive for you will always contract and make you feel heavier. And the reason that is one of the basic tools of access consciousness is one of the weird and wacky things that we in access believe is that what is true for you may not be true for other people. And what's true for other people may not be true for you. And that absolutely includes during pregnancy, during birth, and all of the beginning, befores, and the afters of that experience. And so, learning to cultivate a trust in yourself and actually, we ask a question like, okay, so is it a problem that I woke up on my back? Body, is this okay with us? Baby body, is this okay with you? And you perceive the energy of that. Is that a yes? Is that a like, oh, it's actually not a problem for us in this 10 seconds? And then again, it's like you waking up on your back in this part of your pregnancy may be fine, but later on it could be different. So it's also not going to the conclusion of this is how it is for me right now and this is how it will be the whole time. And I actually think pregnancy is such a cool time to explore the tools of access consciousness because one of the like access consciousness is a just a huge um group of tools that you can use and apply to any situation in your life. And so much about it is about change and being willing to change and being willing to let go of old reference points and moving into new. And if there's any place, any experience on the planet that you actually have to be in that space all the time, it's during pregnancy because your body is different every single day. Every single minute of every single day, your body is changing, shifting, growing, all the things. And so it's really a cool and fun time to start to use these tools because what it'll do is it'll allow you to have that change with a lot more ease. One of the things that creates stress, tension, disappointment, anger, like frustration, like all the things that we experience is that we're resisting the change. Right? If sometimes, like, and this is so easy to say, like, if you just relaxed into whatever needs to change to create the thing that you're looking to create, how much more easy would your life be? How much more ease would you have in your body? And this transcends like pregnancy, of course. And when you're pregnant, like, how much do you kind of dread the change that's coming? And it's not something that you can avoid, right? Like you're growing a baby, the baby's going to come out. Like, but how much time do you kind of avoid looking at and being present with, like, okay, cool, the baby is going to come out. What would I like that to look like? Body, what's going to actually work for us? Not going to like, this is the perfect way to have your baby. This is the only way to have your baby. This is, how to have your baby or how not to have your baby, but more like body, what's going to work for us and including your baby and baby body in that question. That's another thing to start to play with. And I can do a baby talk in the future specific to pregnancy, more specific to birth and like asking your body questions and asking the baby questions about what's going to actually work for the two of you. Because one of the things that I really started to learn and I noticed right away when I started using the tools of access was how many fixed points of view I personally had about how things had to be and how things had to go and what was the right way to do things and what was the wrong way to do things. And the minute I caught myself doing that, I was like, okay, like this has to stop because every single mom, every single baby is different. And every single mom with subsequent babies are different because I was a doula long enough that I actually was at births for whole families. And I couldn't go to that second birth thinking it was going to go like the first birth. And I would really make sure that the mama knew that as well. Like you can't do that because your body's different. This being's different. The being's baby's body is different. And there's so much there. So what if you were actually just willing to be more curious about what is actually going on here? And what does my body know? And what is my body telling me that I have never considered possible? And when you start to have all of those things show up, play with like the energy of it. What's true for me? What's not true for me? If I choose this, what will it create? If I don't choose this, what will it create? Feel into the energy of the future of that. When you're looking at like, how do you want to have your birth? go through different scenarios. Well, if I choose that, what will this look like? Does it expand you? Does it make you feel light? If I don't choose that, what will it look like? And just start to explore and be present with your body and the information that it gives you. Like if you start to look at something or start to look at, I mean, and bodies do this all the time. We just disregard it. So, like, you start to explore or study a particular thing, way of having a baby, particular ideology around pregnancy or birth. And every time you open the book, you just get weird, gross, you kind of feel nauseous, like, what if that's actually your body saying, that's not for us? Put that down. Don't go there. Like, how often do you force yourself through the information your body is giving you based on you've decided that particular thing is the right course, or someone has convinced you that particular thing is the right course? Like, what if you were really truly willing to listen to what your body is saying, and not just your body, but the baby body as well? So that was a lot in this little baby talk. I did see that there's some people asking for some things, and I will definitely do a baby talk on miscarriages in the near future. And what else? So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to PM me. Ask me in the baby talk group. And I always also work one on one with people. So if you have some specific things going on, you can visit my website at carawright.com, and book a session, and we can go into the specific things that you are aware of that you want to have more clarity on. So I look forward to seeing you next week. I hope that this baby talk was fun, and we will see you soon.